Hey there, it's Jason Stein, host of Cars and Culture with Jason Stein on SiriusXM, as well as on this YouTube channel. We interview everybody, actors, athletes, musicians, business leaders. We talk to the people who lust for the vehicle and the people who make them. So like and subscribe. Let us know what you think right here on Cars and Culture.
Hi, I'm Ted Wu, and this is Cars and Culture with Jason Stein.
What a pleasure, not only to have Ted Wu on the program, because we're going to talk about Hot Wheels and an American brand that resonates with everybody. But what a pleasure to have Ted on the program, because he's a new dad, and he could be doing many different things at this time. First of which would not be dealing with Cars and Culture, but dealing with kids and culture. Congratulations, Ted.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. We had a kid 2.5 weeks ago, a baby boy, and we're in the thick of it. So if I fall asleep in the middle of this podcast, please do not take it personally.
We won't. We will definitely try to keep you awake. But I have to know whether there was some element of Hot Wheels incorporated into the baby's arrival, whether it ended up, I mean, certainly not in the crib. I'll advise you on that, not to do that.
Thanks.
But there has to be a collection of Hot Wheels that go to the new baby.
We had a little bit of a baby announcement we did on social media, like a lot of people do. So we definitely incorporated some Hot Wheels cars into the baby announcement, and then we are very fortunate enough to have a really cool partner that does baby onesies and outfits. So he's already been decked out in his Hot Wheels gear. So he's good to go.
What is your son's name?
Teddy. So I'm Ted, he's Teddy. I'm actually the third Ted in the family, or Theodore technically. My grandfather was Theodore. My dad was Theodore. Obviously I'm Theodore. So he's the fourth.
Theodore the fourth.
Yeah.
Theodore the fourth with a new onesie and a whole bunch of cars in his future, I could probably predict.
That's right.
Well, little kids are a big deal. Little cars are a big business. And I want to borrow from a great opening line that was in the Financial Times recently, an article written how Hot Wheels became the largest auto manufacturer out there. And I thought the comparison was fairly unique and very applicable for this program. What they wrote was, while Toyota was busy celebrating its status as the world's largest car company after selling nearly 10 million cars in 2020, Hot Wheels was already well past the 500 million mark. And one of the stats I saw that was incredibly interesting, first of all, starting out more than 50 years ago at this point, but there is a Hot Wheels product that is produced is it 15 seconds? Is that right?
We produce a die-cast car every 16.5 seconds.
60. I was a little off. Yeah. You're a little slower than I said.
Yeah, we'll get there soon.
What a production facility. What a monumental undertaking on a daily basis, Ted.
Yeah, first of all, we're so lucky to have an amazing group of consumers and kids, and whether they're adults, fans alike, to drive that sort of need for that production. And certainly it hasn't always been that way. We sort of have been building up over the 54 years now that the brand has been around for Hot Wheels. But the brand has just taken off to new heights, especially in recent years. We're just coming off of Hot Wheels' biggest year ever in 2021. We are on track to beat last year, this year. And so the brand just continues to grow, even though it is a brand that's been around for a while. In terms of production, we've got the best facilities in the world as well. We've got plants we work with in Asia, whether it's Malaysia, we've got plants in Indonesia, Thailand, but really best in class facilities, which I had the pleasure of actually visiting in October. So just recently. And just really kind of seeing the team there and seeing how amazing the facilities and technology is really cool. But yeah, to your point, it's a lot of cars per second, and we feel very fortunate and lucky that it continues to be that way.
Why is this year and last year, why is it so good? What's happening?
Yeah, it's a great question. This will be, knock on wood, if 2022 goes the way we think it'll go, that'll be the fifth consecutive year of the biggest year ever. So last year we reached $1 billion in wholesale across the Hot Wheels brand. I also work on Matchbox and Disney Pixar cars. So those are other brands not included in that number. But with Hot Wheels specifically, I think we've done a good job of recent years of kind of transitioning the brand from being a toy brand, which of course it is and it will always be, but into a brand that really does draw in enthusiasts and people who are into car culture, and maybe not just kids, kind of older adults and collectors. And I think seeing that shift has really helped bring people in and broaden the audience, and I think that's really helped out in the past few years.
You're on the leading edge of car passion and culture, as you say. Let's talk a little bit more about that in depth. And as one who captures the imagination of people aged 5 to 95, how do you take this responsibility, Ted?
Yeah, we definitely we say 5 to 95 or 3 to 103 is sort of our age range. It's a big responsibility, and again, we feel very fortunate. I feel very fortunate to have the opportunity to work on again, not only Hot Wheels but Matchbox and Disney Pixar cars, which are basically the three biggest kind of toy vehicle brands out there. So we like to say, your first car that you ever have is likely a Hot Wheels, or it could be a Matchbox, or could be a Lightning McQueen. But I think the secret to the sauce, whether it be any of those brands, is sort of our, like you said, our passion for design, and making sure that we are approaching things. We know they're toys, but approaching things, especially since they're rooted in real automotive heritage, with authenticity. So if you look at something in Hot Wheels that we're designing, it could be a Camaro, which of course we'll put the Hot Wheels lens on, or the Matchbox lens on. But if we do something even funny or silly, like we've got a giant toilet seat on wheels.
Yes,
We'll do
I saw
something
that.
silly, but we'll think about it as a real car. Like, we think about it with sort of the idea of, where is the engine placed? Like, how's the stance of the vehicle? Like, those are sort of things we go through. So
The
I think
giant rubber
that's
ducky.
a giant rubber ducky. Exactly. Yeah. So it's all we're very serious about keeping the automotive in what we do.
It's crazy when you mentioned the Chevy Camaro, which interestingly and ironically, that was the first one that was rolled off the line in 1968.
Yeah.
And it was, when you talk about 16 models being produced that year to what, over 20,000 last year?
Yeah, you're exactly right. The Sweet 16 in 1968 is what Hot Wheels launched with, and it was a collection of vehicles that I think were a mixture of sort of California custom culture at the time. So real OEMs like the Camaro, you had some Volkswagen, you had a Bug, you had a Mustang in there, you had some stuff that was also just completely out of the minds of the designers at the time. But the 16 sort of encapsulated what was great in car culture. Since then, since those 16, we've created over 25,000 unique designs, and every year within our what we call our basics assortment, which is sort of the assortment you might find at a peg at Walmart or your grocery store, we've got 400 different vehicles that come out over the course of the year. So it's certainly a high volume business, where we're trying to kind of play a little bit of art and science on how to keep what we call mixes fresh and correct, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, you call it a complex math problem every year, having to figure out what to come up with, right?
So
That you've got to have the right silhouette, the right color, the right sort of vehicles at the moment to recreate. And you have to hang on to that original California custom car culture, because that's where it was all born. And I know that's really one of the key ingredients that you want to keep.
Absolutely. Our like you said, I think one of the things that has kept us relevant is thinking about our roots and going back to California custom car culture. And there were other toys at the time that were out, car toys, vehicles that were popular, and they rolled and everything. But the sort of position that Elliot Handler, who is one of the founders of Mattel, so he's the EL in Mattel. He was coming up with Hot Wheels, and he literally was working with a rocket scientist from Raytheon and a car designer, a vehicle designer from GM, and they were trying to figure out, all right, how do we make a car that has performance, so that rolls faster, that is a better performer than the other cars out at the time, and has a point of view on design. And I think that's really where they looked at sort of, again, what was around them. One of the designers had an El Camino, and sort of use that as sort of a springboard for his designs. But thinking about both performance and design and mashing those together and making sure that they were not just doing sort of the pedestrian cars, but like, what are the cars that are going to really elicit excitement and emotion and passion? And that was the Sweet 16. And so you fast forward 54 years, and I think whether the cars that we're doing are American Muscle or nod back to 1968, or if they're exotics, European cars, JDM, rat rods, hot rods, like whatever, we want to make sure we're pushing the envelope in both performance and design.
And you also cross over all socioeconomic, cultural planes. Why is that important?
Yeah, it's super important. I think we think about it in a couple of ways. I think one way to think about it is we're able to have such broad reach because of how accessible our toys are, particularly the die-cast toys. We have track sets and play sets, and again, Matchbox and Disney Pixar cars are in the mix as well. But within Hot Wheels, you've got the again basic car, which is around $1 US SRP, and I think there's not much out there in terms of toys, or I would argue maybe any sort of consumer goods that has the same level of value at that price point. And we've been able to, knock on wood, really maintain that rough price point for 54 years. So I think we take that really seriously. And one of the things we talk about a lot is how do we maintain the quality of the vehicles, and still maintain, that sharp price point. And again, it goes down to the love of vehicles, which we have. So that's one way to think about it, is we certainly are very accessible, which means we can reach virtually every area of the globe. I think the other way we talk about sort of crossing socioeconomic planes, or at least culture, is from a representation standpoint. And again, we work with virtually all the auto manufacturers across the world. And so again, if we're representing JDM or American Muscle or something European, it's in the line, and we've got those great relationships that help us sort of have that holistic offering for our fans.
But you go the other way as well. And in fact, you've embarked on several partnerships with some luxury heavyweights, Gucci, IWC watches, and not surprisingly, those models sell fast and for a lot of money, Ted.
Yeah. We love those two partnerships we did in the past year or so with Gucci and IWC. I actually have the Gucci car right behind me, if you can see this on video, but it's a Cadillac Seville that Gucci had us do. It was a real Caddy that they had decked out, obviously in Gucci livery and interior. It was immaculate.
Nice.
And they not surprisingly, but very nicely approached us because they were celebrating their 100th anniversary and wanted to do something really cool. And we were of course delighted to partner with them. This is a vehicle, man, I'm gonna forget it off the top of my head. I think we retailed it for $200. For a 1/64th die-cast car, and it literally broke their website. Like their website crashed when it went on sale to show sort of the demand around it, which is really, really cool. IWC, another great partnership that we did recently, is a really fun one and near and dear to my heart because Chris, Christoph, the CEO of IWC, is a actual hardcore Hot Wheels collector. He is
Wow.
yeah, it's super cool. And so he actually reached out to one of the designers on my team, and they had been talking over Instagram and had been sort of just talking about Hot Wheels and his diecast collection. And it happened, the designer was also a big watch fan, so obviously was talking about watches. The designer, the Hot Wheels designer, his name is Manson, was like, hey, well, why don't you come down to the Hot Wheels headquarters and check it out? And he's like, of course. And so he comes over and we started talking, and next thing you know, we're doing an exclusive watch with him, with IWC, limited run of 50 pieces. We commemorated their Gullwing Mercedes 300 SL that they brought to Goodwood, and did a special diecast vehicle that comes with the watch if you purchase the watch, and it comes in an amazing, as you can imagine, case and a whole thing. And those sold out and did phenomenally well. So two examples of sort of the brand, I think, being in maybe a bit of an unexpected place, but showing sort of how relevant we are in culture, which is great.
I love it. You mentioned earlier working with car companies, and I want to get into some of those conversations that do occur. I know they're confidential conversations, but when your team starts to get to work and starts looking at sketching out ideas or kicking off some of those conversations with car companies, they're actually based on real life future production cars. Tell me as much as you can about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so again, we are really fortunate to have great relationships across the industry. I mean, I think we're friends with virtually everyone. And so, and like you mentioned before, I mean, in terms of right from the beginning, and we worked with, we had a Camaro, we had Ford, we had Mustang. So those are longstanding great relationships. So things, you know, in recent past, like we did sort of a release at the same time as the Bronco, you know, the new Ford Bronco that came out, the F-Type that came out a few years ago with Jaguar. We did a big event with them where we were part of their unveiling of the new F-Type. Even Tesla with the Cybertruck a few years ago, we had a RC version, a radio controlled version of the Cybertruck that we created and worked closely with their team and their chief creative officer, Franz Holzhausen. And
Sure.
the joke there is, you know, obviously the Cybertruck's not out yet, so you could drive your first Cybertruck as the Hot Wheels Cybertruck before you get your real one. And then most recently we had a really fun unveiling with DeLorean and the Alpha 5. So that was it in Monterey.
Monterey, right?
Where we did a special diecast package of course, the DMC 12, the original DeLorean, and then the new Alpha 5 together, and we were with them as they were unveiling the actual full size car. But anyway, backing up and answering your question, you know, we work with a lot of auto manufacturers, and we do work on sort of coming out with vehicle launches, trying to do at the same time as them. They give us some advance notice, which is always great. We usually have a timeline of roughly 18 months to a year, so before things come out. So they're aware of that, and obviously they've got, you know, they're working on cars for years, if not longer. So usually the timing works out, but it's always a special moment where you can hold hands with a partner like that and put something out in the market at the same time.
So do they come to you at certain stages and ask you whether you want to be part of the car?
Yeah. So they'll come to us and say, we've got something special going on. It's a pretty organic conversation as well, that we have sort of regular touch points, of course, where they've got partners and they've got their sort of touch points across the year where they're giving updates to their partners. But we are working so often and close with a lot of these companies that it just comes up is an organic thing in our status meetings every month or so. So usually they'll come to us. We'll also we'll have meetings with them about what can we do if it's not a new car that's coming out. Do we do something special? Do we work on something together? We've got some really fun stuff brewing that I can't quite share, but maybe soon. If you'll ever have me back, we can talk about it.
Well, for sure. No, that sounds great. We will definitely take you up on that.
Hopefully you're enjoying Cars and Culture with Jason Stein. Like and subscribe to see more, and enjoy the rest of this interview.
I know there's a lot of back and forth that goes on with the automakers to make sure that the design comes out correctly. And you've said before, when you go to 1/64 scale, you're not just putting it into some kind of shrink ray system, right? I mean, it goes from big to all of a sudden small. It's a really difficult process to scale it down 64 times. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's weird because you would think that's what you do is you take sort of the files that you get, or you 3D scan the car, and then you just kind of press the shrink button and you're done. But something funny happens when you do that, which is the car doesn't look like the car it's supposed to look like. And at that scale, just your eye and the way you perceive the car doesn't evoke the same emotions and the things that make the car special at sort of 1-to-1 scale. So a lot of what we do, and credit to the amazing design team across all brands, but one of the things we do is really figure out where to push and pull those proportions. And so a lot of our designers on the team, we've got a team of about in total 60 designers across the US and Asia, and about 20 of those are focused purely on transportation design, sort of vehicle design. And a lot of those folks did work at automotive manufacturers. So they worked at Honda and Ford, GM. So we've got people who again are from the industry and very serious, but they're looking at how to make that car come alive and really read at that smaller scale. So it could be pulling some fender flares out. It could be adjusting the rake of the car to be a little bit more aggressive at that scale, making the wheels a little bit bigger, is always kind of a trick of the trade within Hot Wheels. But yeah, it's not a 1-to-1 kind of shrink ray approach.
And your designers, just to go back to that, you mentioned transportation designers, industrial designers, graphic designers, toy designers.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who are coming out of the car world, they're going to be designing a lot of cars with you, and they're probably not just going to be designing a shift knob.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the beauty of working on a brand.
That's why you want to work there.
Yeah, totally. It's funny because that's exactly what a lot of the team members say who have come from auto manufacturers. It's great experience, and I'm sure great to have in the resume and amazing. But you can get stuck working on the shift knob or working on the side view mirror. Whereas if you're working on Hot Wheels, you're cranking out car designs, every week. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great creative outlet, and kind of lets you see what you're producing as well, because you're not working on the same car for 3 to 5 years.
How many car designs get put in the bin when you start off the year? I mean, what does the circular file look like under the desk?
Oh man, that's a great question. I would say, the fact of the matter is, because we got to produce enough to fulfill the 16.5 cars per second, there's a high utilization rate on designs. We're not throwing too much away. But I will say, iteration back and forth on a single car, there can be a lot of back and forth. I think working with automotive manufacturers, obviously, they're keen to see how their vehicles are represented at 1/64 scale. So working with licensors, we do a lot of a whole subset of vehicles called character cars, which are basically cars based on characters. No duh. That's I guess the name sort of tells you what it's about. But you can imagine Darth Vader is a vehicle, right? What would that look like? Mm-hmm. And so, we work with Lucasfilm, Disney, Pixar, to make sure that their characters are being represented correctly. And so those usually take a lot of time and back and forth, because we're trying to get things right. So again, to maybe go back to the short answer is a lot of iteration, but there's a lot of car slots we got to fill, so not too much waste.
Indeed. What brought you into the design world?
Yeah, I always loved to draw as a kid. I was a big sort of actually cartoonist and illustrator. I went to school, ended up going to school at Brown University in Rhode Island. And one of the big draws for me was that Rhode Island School of Design was right across the street, and they've got a relationship where you can cross-register and take your art classes at RISD, Rhode Island School of Design. So I was fortunate enough to do that. I ended up double majoring in business economics and then visual art, and took all of my art classes at RISD. And coming out of school, I wanted to do something on the creative side, and luckily, had some connections to Mattel. I think it was my aunt's godson's nephew's dog's cousin worked at Mattel or something crazy, and got an interview. And I actually started working in the group that does animated content for Mattel. So I worked on Barbie directed DVDs. I worked on He-Man. There's a He-Man TV show on at the time, Cartoon Network, and Hot Wheels. Yeah, Hot Wheels had an animated series as well. And so I really kind of rekindled my love for Hot Wheels in that job, working on the animation side, and had always been a car enthusiast and car fan. My dad is a huge car nut, and growing up, he, I think, had every single Motor Trend and Car and Driver magazine for the past 30 years, and just stacks and stacks. So I would peruse those and look at cars with my dad, and then a few years after kind of working in the animation world and doing a little bit of a windy road through marketing and doing some business stuff, I came back to the creative side, and have been working on as a head of design for vehicles at Mattel now for about 7 or 8 years.
So if you were going to work for a car company as a designer, let's take it the reverse way. You go from Hot Wheels to a car company.
Mm-hmm.
Tough question, Ted. Who would you like to work for?
Oh man, I don't even know if I can.
Who do you admire?
Yeah,
who do you admire?
yeah.
Besides
Yeah.
all of them, who do you admire?
I love all of our good friends. Man, I don't know. There's so much interesting stuff going on right now in the automotive world. I will say this may be a lame answer, because I feel like a lot of people would say this, but Porsche. I'm a big Porsche fan. I have a 911 myself, so I feel like I've got an investment daily. It's my daily driver, so I feel like I'm invested there.
Sure.
But I just love the way that they have, stayed true to their design language and have just stood the test of time by really having a clear point of view. And so anyway, so that's partial to Porsche, but again, love all of our good friends out there.
Yeah, for sure. Designers like design in all executions. What are some of your favorite designs?
Not just cars, just designs.
Correct. Yeah, just designs in general.
Yeah. Great question. I will say, and this is probably
Gucci belts, IWC watches.
right.
You got to check the boxes on everybody here.
right. I will say I have noticed the design as of late of strollers more than I ever have in my life.
Okay, well, I bet you are.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, totally. And by the way, if we end up doing a Hot Wheels stroller, that could be something that happens at the very near. This could be the announcement of the whole stroller line. No, I did a ton of research on strollers, and whether it's what you need it for. Do you need a jogger? Or do you need an umbrella stroller? Or do you need, what do you need? And this is going to be silly, but I'm really loving this Duna stroller. This is not a paid, I'm not sponsored, and I'm not trying to get free merchandise. But we have this stroller that like turns from a stroller and then goes immediately into a baby carrier, and you don't need to put the carrier into a stroller. Anyway, it's like blowing my mind, and has made at least this first 2 weeks very car seat. Yeah, car seat into a stroller. But anyway, it's been amazing. So the design on that I really appreciated. Other than strollers, I think architecture and sort of homes. I'm a fan. I like looking at the homes on Dwell. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's sort
Sure.
of modern homes. Watches, of course, we said IWC, but even things like recently kind of got into Casio's G-Shock watches, which I
Sure.
think just have a great, I mean, you talk about bang for the buck, like just a great aesthetic and I mean, just some great stuff coming out of there.
I love it.
Yeah. So that's it.
Where do you get your inspiration?
Yeah, that's another great question. I get asked that a lot, and I think our team gets asked that, and I don't know if there's really one place. I mean, the great thing about sort of what we do is you can draw from anywhere, and I think most vehicle designers would say that, but we've got an element of knowing that we're trying to be fun and knowing that we're trying to bring enjoyment to people. So I think that it helps unlock more things that we can draw from. So whether it's movies or the obvious things like automotive, like going to Cars and Coffee, and whether it's car shows, LA Auto Show was here just recently in LA, Instagram, social media, TikTok. I think we draw from virtually anything that sort of brings us joy and find out how to infuse that into what we do.
One of the fun things, Ted, that I've noticed that Hot Wheels has been really involved in is the Legends Tour.
Yes.
Tell me about the inspiration for the Legends Tour and what it is.
So the Hot Wheels Legends Tour is probably one of the most unique car shows out there. If you're a fan of sort of any Cars and Coffee type show, I encourage you to go check it out. It's a tour we started back in 2018 for our 50th anniversary for Hot Wheels. And the idea was we just wanted to put on a car show and have people who wanted to bring their custom cars to the show and show them off. And the big thing was we were going to do it around, at that time, the country. And if you had the best car, we would judge all the cars. If you had the best car that felt the most Hot Wheels, that you would sort of be given that sort of local award. And then at the end of the year, all of the winners from the local stops across the country would come together and compete against each other. And we did that finale at SEMA, and that one car would get made into an actual Hot Wheels diecast car, and we'd produce your car. Phenomenal turnout and success that first year.
Great turnout, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just fun to see. Like, it's one of the most eclectic car shows out there. You can see it, you've got a Pagani next to a car that looks like a giant chicken. It makes no sense, but it makes all the sense in the world. And it's super cool. So that was 5 years ago. And since then we've been growing the show because the demand has been so great. The turnout has been so great. This past year, we were in over 16 countries, 5 different continents, literally hundreds of thousands of people coming to the shows. In the U.S., it was done with in partnership with Walmart, one of our obviously retail partners, in their parking lots, and it's just been really, really cool. We had the final finale at Jay Leno's garage. I know a friend of yours,
Yep.
And he graciously hosted us. I think this is the third time in a row, where he hosted us at his garage, which, by the way, is like amazing. Just
That's crazy.
Insane. That's a whole, I mean, that's we could talk hours about that. But we had the finale there with Jay. We had some other friends of the brand, Magnus Walker, some John Chase, just some great friends of the brand that also are in the automotive industry, and judged the final sort of 10 cars this year, and ended up picking the winner, which was actually a really cool little Japanese K truck that was turned into a monster truck, a really just nutty vehicle. So if you go online and you can check out the Hot Wheels Facebook page or Jay Leno's YouTube channel, you can see the show and check it out.
I love it. Who has the single largest Hot Wheels collection that you're aware of? And is there such a thing as I guess what you just described would be the closest to a concours, right?
Yeah. That I think is probably the concours of Hot Wheels. An actual Hot Wheels collection in terms of die-cast. There's two big collectors that, first of all, we've got tons of collectors, and which is great. The collector community within Hot Wheels is so strong and global. And we have collectors really everywhere in the world. The two that come to mind that are sort of, I would say maybe some of the most well-known are Mike Zarnock. So Mike Zarnock probably has technically the biggest, and I don't know what the current count is, but I think it's something like 30,000 cars or something. Yeah, insane. And he has track sets and play sets. Like he has the whole shebang. And I think he's got some Guinness World Record, like actual some verification behind that. So Mike is a friend of the brand, and obviously a avid, putting it lightly, collector. And then the other person is Bruce Pascal, and Bruce is also has a huge collection. But the thing that Bruce does or has is the pink beach bomb. And so the pink beach bomb is probably right now the Hot Wheels diecast car that is worth the most in the world. And so I think it maybe most recently appraised somewhere north of $200,000 for this little VW bus, basically. So
it's a little different than the dollar cars.
It's a little different than the dollar car. Yeah. But yeah, he's also just a good friend, and so both those gentlemen I think are probably up there in terms of collectors.
Just a couple more things, Ted.
Yeah.
Where do you see the Hot Wheels passion growing? Which countries? Does it go broader globally?
Yeah. We have seen really broad-based growth across the world, which is great. I mean, I think the obviously in the US we've been strong. That's where our heritage is. But I think as the brand has shifted over the last few years into really being a more globally representative brand. We've seen Asia really pick up. We've got a lot of JDM representation in our line, especially, and it's not just a global taste that are driving that, but even I would say local. And when I say local, I mean American taste. But when you think about car enthusiasts, back in the day, I think you had a certain American, the cars that you wanted were certain American muscle cars, right? And as we get further removed from maybe the muscle cars of the 60s and 70s, you've got folks that are growing up that are now in their 20s, late 20s, 30s. They wanted the Skyline, right? The R32 or R33. They want, so they want a different type of car. It's what is sort of what was cool in the 90s is maybe now becoming super aspirational now to have, and is driving a lot of that interest for beyond just kind of American auto manufacturers. So anyway, I digress. The point being sort of the global sort of portfolio, I think, is driven both by folks outside the US coming into the brand, but also by people's taste changing in the US a little bit as well.
Yeah, agreed. Two final things. This is the holiday time. Are you the most popular guy in your neighborhood?
I
mean, does everybody come to you and say, okay, look, I really didn't get the gift that I was going to get. Can you just bring something home from the office?
So this Halloween, I did give out some Hot Wheels vehicles instead of candy, which is always a big hit. That's always great. And yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna have neighbors lining up around the house as if I'm some sort of Santa Claus, but we'll see.
We'll see. Maybe there's still time.
Maybe. Yeah.
We had Jay Ward on this program last year early. He was one of my early guests. I saw him recently at the LA Auto Show. He speaks glowingly of you. He says you're smart and funny and passionate about cars. You're a car guy. Prove him right.
Jay pretty much described exactly himself in that statement, because that's certainly not me.
Well done.
That is Jay to a T. I mean, Jay is I've known Jay for a long time. I've had the pleasure of working with Jay, obviously, as you know, who's the franchise guardian of cars at Pixar. Yeah. And we've worked with him at Mattel. We've worked on the Cars business for since its inception in 2006 is when that movie launched. And I started working on Cars around 2009 and have known Jay since then. And he's phenomenal. I mean, just a good guy. And I don't have to tell you, I know he's been on the show and just has a wealth of just like in real detailed geeky knowledge of automotive.
Yes, he does.
Unparalleled, which is perfect for what he does. So anyway, I adore Jay.
Well, I'll say that he was right about you, Ted.
Well, you're too kind.
So you not only capture the imaginations of those from 5 to 95, or would you say 3 to 103,
yeah.
But I would venture from 2.5 weeks to 102.5 years old. Congratulations on your new baby, Theodore the Fourth. And thanks for being on Cars and Culture.
Hey, thanks so much, Jason. It's an absolute pleasure. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hopefully you enjoyed this interview on Cars and Culture with Jason Stein. Like and subscribe. Come back and see more interviews with actors, athletes, musicians, business leaders. It's all right here on Cars and Culture.